my Dodge truck, what I'm doing is I am putting black bumpers on the vehicle. And if you look right there, there's black bumper. You can see where I rhino line coated it. But what the problem is with my bumpers is I got these sensors. And the bumpers that I had on the vehicle at the time of purchase were chrome. And the sensors that I have are silver. Okay, they're not black. So what we got to do is we have to go ahead and refinish, or should I say paint, our sensors.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
So the first thing we're going to do to refinish our sensors, and this can be if you paint your car, let's say that you go ahead and you repaint your whole car and you want to refinish the sensors to match, this is basically what you're going to do. And all cars vary in difference. You might not have these rings, these beauty rings, you might just have one solid piece. And another thing is I don't recommend painting them all together. I recommend taking them apart and painting them, because if you paint them like this, where they're all together, what's going to happen is you're going to end up not being able to paint around that edge, and then eventually it will chip and peel. So it's always better to paint them separate instead of together. So we got all our sensors here, and I got a total of 10 of them. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to take a wire brush, just like you see here, and I want to go ahead and get that dirt off of them. So I'm going to go around and clean each one of them, making sure that all the dust and dirt is completely gone. You can see that some of them are pretty dirty. This was on the back bumper, so you want to make sure that all that's cleaned up. And the reason we're doing this is so when we put it all back together, it fits in there very easily on entry, and also we don't want no dust and dirt in our paint job when we paint them. And then we'll go ahead and inspect our beauty rings to make sure that those are not full of dirt. Here's one right here. And we're just going to go ahead and get the dirt out of them, so when we put them back together, they'll go together easily. Now, one other thing that you want to pay attention to is these all have different angles. I don't know if you can see the difference in the angle of that, but you want to make sure and pay attention that it goes back in the proper place when you put them back together. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to prep these for paint. What we're going to do is we're going to take a gray Scotch-Brite and we're going to tear a piece off. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and Scotch-Brite them, and that's it. We don't want it to peel off, so we're going to make sure we get it all really, really nice. And when you're done, it should look something like that. All right, we're going to go ahead and repeat our process on our sensor itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and scuff that down really, really good. And the real trick to painting the sensor is not putting a lot of paint on it. When you paint these, all you want to do is paint them to cover. That's it. And if you can get some of that silver paint off, or whatever color it is, then try to get it off. But as you can see, Now it is scuffed down. Let me show you one that hasn't been scuffed down. You can kind of see the difference here. Okay, we went ahead and Scotch-Brite'd them really, really good. Here's the Scotch-Brite we used once again. Gray Scotch-Brite. I didn't use a red one. And another thing I did to these is I went ahead and taped off the ends where the pins are inside, where they plug. So we don't want to get any paint inside that because we want to make sure that those stay to a good connection. It really doesn't matter if you get any overspray on the housing of the sensor itself, because once you pop it all together, you don't see that and it's okay. We also got our beauty rings. I'm going to call these beauty rings. I don't know what they call it. They have I'm sure they got a politically correct name for them. But I didn't wipe these off. They've been Scotch-Brite'd very well. Now you could go back and use rubbing alcohol, or you can use wax and grease remover to remove the dirt a little more, but we're not going to worry about that. I don't think we're going to need to. And what I got here, I got a special gun. This is called a touch-up gun. This is a very small mini. It's called a mini Sata jet. It's made by Sata, and it's actually a miniature HVLP gun. Now I bought this thing back in, I believe, 1992 or 1991. This is the very first edition of these guns, and I use this gun a lot. But what's going to give us the finish that we want is using a gun like this, not our big size gun. And the reason I say that is because if you use a big gun, a standard size gun, you can't leave those sitting like this, because the air pressure that you have to use on the standard gun will literally blow these off the table. But if you use a Sata gun, I'm sorry, not just a Sata gun, if you use a mini jet gun, let's call that, which is a miniature gun, then you'll be okay, because the air pressure you're going to use on that is very, very low. So we're going to go ahead and set our gun, all right, we're going to go ahead and set our gun where we can use that at a very, very low pressure, just like if we were airbrushing them. Now another thing you can do, speaking of airbrushes, you can go ahead and get an airbrush and airbrush those, but that's going to take you quite a long time. So by using the mini jet gun, the mini HVLP gun, and you can buy these at Harbor Freight, you can buy them at Lowe's, Home Depot, very cheap, very inexpensive. Not this one, of course. This was, when I bought this, it was like $350. That was a lot of money back then. But you can buy these cheap, inexpensive little touch-up guns is what we call them. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and paint those. And I'm going to go ahead and put thin coats on. I'll put probably 3 coats. But I want to put thin coats. I don't want to put heavy coats. So let's go ahead and plug our air up and start putting our paint on our sensors. Just like that. Then we'll go ahead and get our sensors. And it's all in the air pressure and the spray gun that you're using. So if you look at it, I'm basically spraying them like if I was spraying them with an airbrush. You can't even really see the paint coming out, I don't think. But it's real important to use a very low air pressure. Now another thing you can do, and I'm just talking random here, you can actually tape these down, or take a piece of cardboard and mount them in a piece of cardboard, or whatever you got to do. We're not going to go through all that hassle. Once again, we're just going to put a couple coats of paint on them and be done with them, and then I'll put a coat of clear. So we'll go ahead and let those dry for about 15 minutes. I'll put one more coat of paint on them, then I'll come back and I'll put a coat of clear. When you paint these little parts like this, you don't want to use a lot of paint. Once again, as you can see, it covered really good. And it's all in the type of spray gun you use. I would not use the big spray gun. I would use the little small touch-up gun like you saw. We're going to let those dry. I'm going to clear coat them. and then we're going to look at them and see what's going on when we're done. So now that we've painted our sensors, you can see everything came out really, really nice. So by using our touch-up gun versus our big gun or our airbrush, it seems to me like everything really worked out nice, and it's going to really flow together good. Alright, once you got all the tape removed, what we're going to do, we're going to take our sensor sealers, and you can see they go right back on there. Look at that. Many. So you want to go ahead and install those back onto the sensor itself. Come on over on this side, Minnie the Body Shop Girl, and you can see that now our sensors are black. They are not silver anymore, and they are painted. Now, the only thing that I probably would have done different, and I didn't have any, is I would have put some flex additive, no, not flex additive, some flattener. I would have put flattener in the clear, and that would have gave it a duller finish. One more thing I want to strongly suggest, because there's a lot of people out there saying, wow, you did that the long way, and you spent a lot of money doing that, because a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, I can use a can of spray paint to do that with. No, you can't. Automotive paint and spray paint are two different things. If I would have sprayed this with Krylon or Rust-Oleum or possibly this stuff right here, what would happen after the first 2 or 3 times that I washed it, the paint would have peeled off and it would have been silver. So to do something like this, you really need to do it the right way, and that's using automotive paint that is designed for painting something like this. My truck is down and I don't have a vehicle to drive, so I got to get these bumpers together. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel and support us by looking up above, right below the video. If you look where my thumb is right here, you can see I have merchandise for sale right there. Check it out, buy something, support my friend Pete, and do what's necessary to help me keep making these awesome videos that I am sharing with you.